Rinpoche. And then after that, Rinpoche, we're going to keep a Dhamma talk. And we have the question and answer in the end, at the end. Okay. No Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghaṃ Namami.
Dhamayang Buddhassa Bhagavato Vavabhaka Namakala Karo Mase Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Dhamma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa
Bhagavato Arahato Samma
Sambuddhassa
ผมครับผมได้ยิน
ใครนะบรรยายธรรมท่าน
Tsengdok Rinpoche ครับหลวงพ่อจากแคนาดา
เซนล็อกยิมโพเซ่
โอเคครับ
โอเค
Welcome everyone. I hope that everyone is keeping safe and stay healthy. I am sorry to hear that 3 of our Sangha in Las Vegas has been infected with the COVID-19. One of the monks is still in the intensive care unit, and another 2 are recovering at the hospital and the temple, respectively. I wish them speedy recovery and safely overcome the COVID. Please, everyone, take extra care and precaution during this time. Wear a mask and practice social distancing. And thank you for the Rinpoche to accept my invitation for come give a Dhamma talk today. And before we start, I want to invite the Casey to introduce the Rinpoche. Okay.
Thank you so much, Bhajan. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you today Tenzin Chogkyi Gyaltsen, the 7th Tsengdok Rinpoche. He was recognized by His Holiness the Dalai Lama as the reincarnation of the great abbot Tsengdok Rinpoche and received ordination in 1998. He set up Tsengdok Monastery in Vancouver, Canada, and has been responsible for revitalizing the cultural and Buddhist teachings for the local Tibetan community there. He played a vital role in welcoming His Holiness the Dalai Lama to Canada in 2006. And in 2010, Tsengdok Monastery jointly hosted the Long Life Prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Tsengdok Monastery provides financial support for many monasteries and schools around the world to uplift and educate impoverished children. And we're really looking forward to hearing today about how to maintain a peaceful mind in times of uncertainty. Thank you so much.
First of all, Rinpoche and our great master invited me to today just a very short and some the speaker And I'm just very honored to participate in this very special this kind of event. So this is my first time to Zoom to speaking. So for me, it's more convenient to speak in Tibetan. The better for me. That is a very first very apologize to all of you. And so yeah, this is a Sonam. He will translate to me. Thank you. Oh yeah. Then that the any because that didn't the any other Telenga the lama ngarai krongoshi ba the sugis in that the music near malan to stini koku stage in the tango teniga mimong but nyamba zo ete ngarai na pacha tangtamo routines in a china chi chani to because toano the answer this Shinanda Nata kind of the Nambi to the young medicana and then the Motel
Rinpoche is extremely honored to be invited by the master and who has been a long-time friend of Rinpoche as well. And also, this is a very unique and special time, and as we deal with the communicating and connecting and sharing the teaching through amazing platforms like Zoom, which really brings everybody together. Rinpoche is saying he's somewhat new to it, so he's equally excited as well as a little bit nervous because this is something entirely new. And but above all, Rinpoche is extremely honored and to have all of you come together and share this moment with you all. Rinpoche would like to continue extending his Tashi Delag and a greeting to you all. And particularly in our gathering today, we have the master, and then also there's a community of the Sangha, and also the lay as well. And just for the fact that we are all able to come together in this very difficult time, despite the social distance, we can connect and share. And the Rinpoche is very appreciative of everyone's presence in today's gathering. When we think about today's topic of finding inner peace, or the sense of the peace within oneself, particularly in challenging times like this, the sense of peace, the sense of happiness and calmness is something, even if we exclude this difficult time, it is very innate aspiration of humans and animals, of sentient beings of any kind. The wishing to have a fulfilled and happy life, a meaningful life, is something that is, we can say, is uniform. It's almost innate in us. And as a Buddhist practitioner, we all are, it's really, I think, brings the fact on our shoulder is, in what way do we generate that state in our everyday life? Happiness is not, as we all know, something that we can buy or something that falls from the sky, something we can cultivate and get the ownership. But instead, it is something that can be cultivated on our day-to-day life, and using our own faculty and intelligence that is unique to human beings among many other animals. And not only that, in this kind of, as in Buddhist tradition emphasizes, is that not only generating the happiness, but how to maintain the practice or the right view whereby we can sustain that happiness in a longer stretch of time. So this is really what we have in front of us, is ways, the practices through which we can cultivate that sense of happiness and meaning in our life.
다 배샤이나 대연선인의 뒤에 다른 데 동출구가 lonju 네 손대다 단다바데이나 네 지찬이 땅아도 지금 미망보지라 지금 세대 마음의가 다 단다게 도연내도 되게 재미가 미망보지라 네 지금 생각하는 감 최고 어레스 생각하는 때는 최고 어때 야 강인데 양 얘가도 지금 좋아 미드 소셜리지리 시당아 지다 다 강인데 망보요레스 배샤나 땅아도 중화가 놓고 되니 강에 요레스 얘나다 단다게 되니 지 도요 네트가 아니 다 된지 강에데 아니 맞아 미 소셜 강에 인지가나 니 된지 세야요 된지가나 맞아 세야 되나 아니 맞아 차송 저당 계당 차송가 타몽 당은 미션 고레스
And particularly when we think about since the end of the year 2019 onwards, as COVID situation started to trend and become part of our life, there's a lot of fear that is being generated. And one thing that we all have to really acknowledge is regardless of the event, how event unfolds, we also have to acknowledge how these pandemics occurs. And in many sense, it can be attributed to our own way of life, our own way of pace of life that has contributed towards this new disease or pandemics to surface. Another aspect, as pandemic start to set in from one country to another, this has become a global or universal experience. And as we all experience it, there's definitely an aspect of us that we see our own fear more closer than ever. So in that sense, how as a Buddhist practitioners, we can really see those angles, those aspects of how our mind works, and based on that, if we approach, if we rethink our way of teaching to make it more precise, and also the reality is so different under this kind of circumstance, where it becomes necessary for the entire community to become responsible, because this it's not something that can be contained one place, and that if we haven't contained the situation in one place, this can spread everywhere. So in that sense, we have to generate a social consciousness and personal responsibility at every level, because all our actions are the lack of social distancing, lack of following the proper hygiene, and so forth, really leads to not only damaging one's own health, but also affects the community and the near and dear ones as well. So in that sense, we have, on the basis of the aspiration of to generate a happy life, we have to approach it from collective angle in this particular time.
아니 강에서 다 메시지상 망보요네 시니 아니 가서 미당 미와가 바가 데지 타랑스 데야 안 타나진 가서지 가시고 지 카리게 고아 라서위다 근데 잼비다 시가 가서 그지 가서 토텐지야 된지 망보요네 엔 타나진 다 샘도가니 아니 다소도데니 치요의 연인직이 나연자 치매인직이 나연자 가서 좀 좋아 미직이 미차니 아니 가서지 소소 시계라요비 아니 시계라요바티 아니 맞아 주 가만히 장위가 세와디가 오네네 맞아 초대를 했어. 대제가나 아니 맞아 지 소소라지 대완도 봤다. 등에만도 봤지 예마 난제 아니 맞아 센제 탐시 아니 맞아 대완도 봐 등에만도 봤지 와셔야 돼. 대나네 대비가 체도 대와지 지 대에 맞아 지 천정과 대와지 마인베 아니 이해는 보고 대와지 너는 이게 체도 아주 자성은 들라 강에 동네 제고여다 근데 제가 됐어요 답시 된데 아니 지금 고용을 했다 아니 아주 지 가시고 그래서 저기 담바 같은 진짜 진당이 미치기 미차니 아니 아주 같이나 뭐 이제 호유 아주 자성은 뭐 지어로 나와서 듣고 싶어요.
And on the other hand, when we think about this very unique situation where the entire world is really under one particular challenge, in that sense, at least we are unified in that sense as whole world. But when we think about this pandemic situation, the society at every level is trying their best to overcome this difficulties that is being posed by the pandemic. If we think about the medical professionals, the amount of sacrifice that they put, and not to mention the scientists, and all of them are working really day and night, trying to find a solution so that all this can be reversed at that level. So even at our own level, we are all trying to really be cautious, be respectful, and be thoughtful of oneself and one's near and dear ones. So in that sense, when we think about our Buddhist values and teachings, it really fits in the sense, as a Buddhist, it's the sense of altruism, to think for the community and the others, is so central in our teachings. And there's no better time than now to apply those teachings, because just following a simple habits of personal hygiene, it not only attributes to your own personal health, but to the health and happiness of the community around you. And thereby, if all of us follow these directives or suggestions, then through this collective goodwill, we can be hopeful. Despite the last few months of many challenges, we can definitely, there will be a moment when we overcome this situation and and appreciate our own effort and result as thinking of a collective. Also, when we think about the situation, what is true is this situation has gripped the entire world with a sense of pain and fear, and particularly for those who have lost or contracted the COVID, it's very unfortunate, and we continue to pray for their well-being. But another aspect of this is also to realistically understand the kind of challenge that it is this is not the first time a pandemic has occurred in this world. There were many circumstances in a much more difficult times in the past where entire community without the facility and mobility has caused the pandemics in the past to wipe out communities and societies. So when we look at the situation now, it's amazing and it's admirable how world is coming together, how the internet, how the commute through the globe is becoming a vehicle to support and to share the knowledge, to support each other through many platforms. So therefore, on that purpose, of course, first reaction would be something like this would give us sense of fear, but also we need to remind ourselves not to be sustain that. Of course, the first reaction will be fear, but not to overcome that because our community as human beings are extremely intelligent and extremely resourceful, and sooner or later there will be from different fronts a solution that will bring an end to this pandemic in the sense. And even as individually, what we're doing on our own is a remarkable effort. So therefore, Rinpoche is saying we have this great verse by the Shantidevas that really we can make use of in this time is the verse goes like this: if there is no solution to this solving a situation, then of course that's a sense that becomes a source of worry. But if there is a solution to the problem, to the difficulty, then why do we need to worry? So that Rinpoche says we can take that verse of Shantideva to our heart, thinking that this is a situation that is temporary, and there are many remarkable people and community as a whole is working in with the consideration, with compassion for each other, and sooner or later there will be this pandemic situation will be behind us. So therefore, not to worry, not to be not to let fear take good part of your day in circumstances like this.
That's the point. Ni tandali monetary ga ji yesi chimo sha la ga song sha ju da monetary de la khide la be 개심부 휴지도 왔어. 내가 장는 거 소소 미세진 원이 그 소소가 된지 상로 당이나 아니 지 소소세야 지당 아니 센세야 지 개발체고 그래. 다 아정세야 되나 미치 차대요 그래. 근데 센세리가나 아니 타요 말이야. 근데가나 아니 지 소소당 센이가나 아니 센데가 소지한테 당 원에 장는 게 개심부 휴차대요. 배샤나 단다 가서 그 나자들라 주야이나 다 소소 주들이 중에는 미치리스 다 소소 근데 아니 소소 나장 게샤 유대 아니 미시마랑 먹이고 있죠 미망보 지금 나주지 가세요 아니 지 મંગીઓ게 되니까 답식이 채도 내가서 나니 단이다 단다데 다 지금 가서 답식 템포리스
yeah, so in times like this really it's a perfect situation or reminder for cultivating the basic Buddhist values. And it's more practical now than ever because we are in this situation. And how we position oneself in relation to other in the Buddhist view is self is just one and others is infinite. And therefore, we have to always think about the benefit of others, well-being of others, and if we do so, then it enables the society and community and people to connect, to be considerate of each other, and thereby sort of bring in happiness in the community as whole.
근데 이제는 아니 뭐도 지금 좋아 미팅이 비슷하니 아니 뭐도 남보는 거 시소지나 되고 그래. 대체지 네 소소가 대화 나지 아니 다 선지 담지게 대화도 지바로 와. 네 소소가 대화도 받인 대화도 뭐도 간섭 시행할 테니 아니 용고리 스kan에 있는 것도 좀 남보는 다 처정되는 시간이 돼요. 대인데거나 다 난신데 다 영화도 지 예스 챔ber 장수 시와하게 아니 뭐도 지기는 거. 현재 전부는 가르성을서나 직대 대화 진예바 아니 대kin데 젠데 돌리숑스 직대 등에 진예바 대kin랑데 돌리숑스 어떻게 되는지 소요해요.
And we can further continue with this amazing verse written by Shantideva about the source of happiness and source of one's suffering. And in the verse, it goes like, all the happiness that one finds in our life is the result of your aspiration to bring happiness to others. And all the suffering that one inculcates or what that befalls oneself is as a result of wishing happiness only for oneself. So this verse and teachings by the Shantideva are so profound and simple at the same time. And I think in times like this, really, these verses, and it is common reality and experience reality that whatever we do in our life is really, even for oneself, the happiness for oneself comes in relation to others. So without the other's presence, others' acknowledgement, others' compassion towards oneself, then there will be no happiness. So therefore, to appreciate, to remind ourselves of these basic principles and values, and to be considerate of the people around oneself and the community around oneself, fits in perfectly in times like this to bring happiness, but also to be contributing member of the community to prevent the spread of the pandemic.
다들 지금 소연지 아니 가서 오늘 전에 그 소소 대가서 치 말레바 미지 나양 아니 가서 지 도와다 미가 아니 랑젠을 행기라 요베가 아니 잠스세야데 아니 개심부지 봐. 어때서 그래요? 당하고 정리를 취직 계획이 지나 아니 다 데일리 장 하고 있어. 그봐. 장관의 정리 영어도 지금 선발돼. 양수 야천 보시니. 아니 용타라. 아니 너 다른 더 적동비가 니 가성스네. 대바진 마샤스 개와 펜션 서버시스. 아랑게 샘나 용선된 데니 성기 템바이스. 어딘데 소요스. 다 가성스나 동바 상기 좀 되더니. 아니 용타라. 아니 너도 주 강서 시엔라. 안 펜토야지. 아니 되니가 지금 대치고리스. 계속 펜 마토나양 지금 니 senjina 그 이제 밀라 누가 마키야세 텐디지 맞지 인탈라고 그래요.
Therefore, again, when we think about the basic human goodness, the way in which we experience happiness, is really not even, we can, even if someone who is not Buddhist, or any human being, this value and this philosophy or the way works equally. But as a Buddhist, I think we have more responsibility to really put it through the effort as a Buddhist practitioner, to be community-minded, to be constantly working for the well-being of others. And one of the very important teaching by Buddha in one of the sutra is the verse that Rinpoche read is, how do I translate this? Is I vow not to create any non-virtuous deed. I will strive to enact abundant virtuous actions. And then the last two lines in that verse is, when one totally understand or tame the nature of our mind, and this is what the Buddha's tradition is. So therefore, as a Buddhist, we can be more sort of forthcoming, more responsible in the situation and times like this. And when we also think about larger way in how human nature is, we all aspire, we all live with hope, with aspiration to have a happy life, to a happy community, to happy family, and so forth. And all, on the other hand, also equally what we want to avoid, we want to not to be part of is the suffering. But where it becomes different is the how, the method, right? Though what we aspire, though what we want to see in oneself and the others is happiness, but our actions through mind, body, and speech, when they are driven or they are dictated by the ignorance or hatred, anger, and jealousy, though what you are aspiring for is happiness, your actions lead you to the opposite. On that concept, important point, again, the Shantideva, the great master Shantideva, has this beautiful verse in which he says, even though what we are aspiring is to get rid of the sufferings, but what we are doing, our actions are actually manifesting, or our actions are bringing the suffering in our life. And then the second verse is, even though what we are going after, what we are seeking is happiness, but our ignorant view and action makes us to look at our own happiness like our own enemy. And as Buddha's teaching really reflects things very clearly, that the Buddha nature is within all of us, and it's up to us in order to cultivate, to practice, and to pursue the path of perfection. And in this particular verse, the Buddha has stated that because of Buddha's attainment and blessing, it cannot sweep away your negative karmas. But what is also indicated is this very state of a Buddhahood is something you, the practitioner, have to pursue, to practice, and to to develop yourself through that stages. So in that sense, it's really, we can also reflect Buddha before attaining enlightenment was not a Buddha, was human, and therefore through his effort and practice of perfection has reached this state of enlightenment, state of a permanent happiness. And Rinpoche is saying he thinks this is an important point to remember, to remind ourselves of this nature of Buddha that is within all of us, and thereby to really, particularly in time like this, to treasure this challenge as a blessing in disguise, where you can cultivate the compassion, because we are all experiencing this very challenging time. And then not only in a sense to really, the traditional practice of the prayer is of course important, but in modern times like this, the challenges are changing. So we also, as a Buddhist, have to become more practical, pragmatic, and connected with the society, where our values are reflected in our activities and our actions. And now is a better time than any other time. So Rinpoche is saying this has already been 45 minutes, so thank you for your attention. And maybe now we can switch to where if you have any questions or discussions, we can continue in that format.
Okay, thank you very much for the enlightening talk. Thank you, Rinpoche. And thank you for the translators too, because I think this is a great opportunity, because it shows that the language has no barrier to learning, even though we might not understand, but we can still communicate. So we have a couple of questions on the chat, but I just want to reflect back some of the things that Rinpoche have actually shared regarding the Shanti Deva that you actually talk about. I find it very interesting, because a lot of times, sometimes as a lay person, our rational mind will tell us, do good, do not lie, follow the 5 precepts. But sometimes our actions are very different from what our mind are telling us. So how do we make sure that we stay consistent between our rational mind and also making sure that we make the right decision and taking the right actions to do good? So a lot of time, what I mean is that, how do we make sure that we can control what we think and follow with a consistent action that are consistent with the Buddha's nature and do good and everything. So can Rinpoche share a little bit?
Okay, on that topic, Cheki Namjing Samlunachi, then require and the Yavaranda, Yang and the Giva on the window sound rate on it. Then Dimazi good is on it, Semba Gangway good. Some Samluna up there. The Indon, Laftar is the Tachi Namjing the Kangar, Yonda Kangal here. The matter Laftar have good do. Chiksamba Namjin the Jin Machoni Nampa the Pedo, that chicken on Rotana. The Tendiga Kangara Achi Nampi Shoni, don't need chick tablam some good and then the cook and the Taran Namjin Chigore, some just semi Stenga. So don't need Laftar had a Vikchat on this world. The Manchati Watani Fisher and you work, but that is how she I think on Rinpoche wants to the other one.
to Korea de another Gombin and the Korea another settle Korea and the Mandaji of this. And it's done another Tachi and it Tewa and Samba and Bombas and Chevrolet. Right. And what they are another that's you with about the Mambuga. Something yeah, Tia, your diaries. And it Tamo TV 20 la and another to some time. Tendela, Samlo Tang, the kitchen bodies. And there are Samlo Tangani, and one Taniki, Samlo Tangini, Samlo Tani, and one Tanika Susuchi, Jetola, and Jay the kitchen body shots. And they and they generally she started the Jagano Toguduna, and it's also community bodies. Tell another to Gomji, you make a like Cheshire is. They did the shots.
That's a very, very important point, and I think very common experience. But Rinpoche is saying, as in the Buddhist stages of study and practice, we have Thö Sam Gom Sum, Thö meaning hearing, Sam meaning contemplate or think on it, and then Gom is to apply or to meditate on it. Maybe this very challenge can be sort of seen through that lens, in the sense, for a proper practice, first, of course, whatever the teacher is teaching, we have to listen with a very clear and sharp intent. And once you understand everything, once you hear everything, and then to contemplate on that, right? To really analyze and contemplate and think on that, and whereby if one go through that process, then that point or that teaching will be deepened in your understanding, in your mind. And if we go through that process, then it's more likely, and most likely we will follow up with meditation. So maybe we can apply that same logic to our everyday aspiration and action. So when we have certain aspirations, to sort of to spend a little bit more time than that fraction of moment to think about it, to process it, to really analyze it, to spend more time thinking about that. And once we do that, and then we are more likely, there's more chances of following up on, because we have contemplated. So that's what Rinpoche is expressing.
The guy is not the program jingle. I need to Shindy Sunjin King. I need to Daniel Chumbi Carson, Carson. Tambo Yachin Tiwa Mountains. But there's only the Tamsi Nambarshir. Taman Second and Yamsalam. Kenjang Tembaji, Chetam was in Prison. Tambo Yachin, Yachivi, and it turns to Tambo and Tigoris. Tambo Yachin Tiwa Mountains, Kazu, Tizamo. But there's only the Tamsi Nambarshir. The part of the Karchigosna, Tiwa de Karchigosna, they got it to Dambate, and this was Wojila Katrina, Sherrod in the Chiboris. The Salomon water Moris. Taman in second and Yamtama, and the Tamatilla, and then on the Toniga Susuchi, Karsigur. That's Jamsa Juti, and Bombi, and Satan the Gubia Horse. Taman in second and Yamsalum, and it can get Temba, you Chetam was in the Summer. And it's Taran and Zingi, Dajatomba Kursona, Tenant the Guachi, magician. Do it then check in the Sela. Nikit was in that comedy. She needed the Martin Georges. Mari Demari. Sarchi Davi Sergenta. Laporta La Naika. A longer shy kitchen. I think the Nitrio is. Sarchi Davi Sergent, Laporta in Naika. A longer time kitchen is Tanu Trio. Colonel Tambo de la, Ani Sosola Sergi Yoina, Serte, Ani on the Yasha Jatamba. And it says, "Hey, by Mokanita was not Tamotella said Chego." Yes. And it said, "Chetan, Taran Jatama in Hago, there's some Hago Maris, and then made a chapel. Made a chayna, Tigan Nanga Kenyan or any attorney Maris. That there's something thing Maris. And it Tamadelan, I didn't Jambudo was given in the Dago. And it just a Jatama that said the last same dream. That's a shiny Hago. Yes. Nothing on the Karshi was not, and then she was
yeah, this same challenge is, we can maybe also quote Jetsongkaba, and in which one of his quote was the importance of listening thoroughly to the vast body of teaching, to listen thoroughly, and then the next stage is to analyze it thoroughly. And then the third stage is to rigorously and consistently practice on a daily basis. And in those verses, Rinpoche, Tsongkhapa has used this word of repeatedly or thoroughly. So thinking about that, this repetition and thoroughness gives us stronger sense of connection to that idea, and thereby whatever we pursue will continue further. And another important response in that is the Buddha's verse on how the importance of analyzing. And this particular verse is about how do we validate a true quality of a gold, and in which Buddha has mentioned you have to not only just looking at it, you have to sekchet darsam. So you have to burn it to melt it, and thereby you will know if it's true gold or not. That is not sufficient. You also have to cut it, and then not only that is sufficient, but also you have to polish it, and just rigorously following through those approach, then we are able to see if it's truly a gold. So this important yet simple teaching really reflects the importance of sort of building the conviction through this reminder for oneself.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rinpoche, for your answer. Can I get Casey, you want to share the next questions that you have?
Yes, hi, thank you. There's a question about learning more specific techniques about how to cultivate Buddha nature in oneself. And also another similar question, wondering if Buddha nature follows us after we die.
Follows after we die?
After death, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to do work? Aricheki jek sangchi jek dan namche dan nubayo ka. Tatu yara song do kono yara chit tap karayores. Tagu tu aniwa da tata tam de rendwa. Ta check nin chasona. Tagu ti chui jugo aricheki jek sangji jek nuba to kono ka. Ti cheki down ten no mumten ne yodnare.
다 나도 기왕아시 켈레닌 지금 임바이나 아니 나도 다 나도 미 신도를 가나 소소소보데 다 가서가 여고에나 그 자동은 아니 내가 찾아 그러 이나에 나도 치 갈수 그래 아니 세와 처마 줘야 돼 나도 단대게디 소소거지 개와 가서서나 개의 띠가 단 제우스 난자 레 U.S.A. 레 데라티니 아니 제우데 스나자 아니 때 나도 남시디에는 나도 지와 처마 주고 그래 대체에나 아니 나도 지와 처마디에는 지와 요거시네 봐 당 배샤나 나도 지와 납시도 오지 켈레바이나 텔라코 계속 맞던 join 라가 요마레스 그렇죠 그봐 때니까나 아니 단대니 소소지 요가 지 양제해야 돼 아니 나도 지 당보니 나도 지 진이 송대 아니 다 밤이가 아니 지 장중라 때니 나도 근데 쇠대요 그래서 때니까 나도 장중해야 돼 아니 나도 지 예마레를 나도 수화기비 정도에 가즈그 소소지 조금 뭐지 요에나 그봐 아니 나도 지금 지 요아이나 때 아니 지 요아이나 나도 지 강에서 튀어 같은 데가 매 셴바가니 소소지 가즈그 셴펜의 상도 가즈 요아이나 디스그 아니 셴바도 있네 강에서 튀어온 데가 미 셴바가 로바시에 나서 어떤 거 그래서 안 다만 안신게 네 단다겠지 나도 저기 제가 옆에 아니 단지 차려 옆에 네 영제때 아니 아직 처리와 차대요 그래서 그러와 딱 나도 제 영제때 가서 공패를 당해 근데 때 아니 아주 영제때 아니 아주 처리 매봐 되는 지금 딱 영제 채모되는 거 지금 언제 왔대 네 단단히 소소지 다 지금 양례제고에 그 차대셔서 대지야이나 아니 치마로 지금 좀 좋아해나야 텐델라이나야 멀리 아니 지 요거지 토에 담비신 데리시나 제기 중화 네 치마에네 아니 지 지 요거 용화들라니 단단히 수 모는 잡아이나 대양아도 지 모는 대에 다 지 가시고 시랍다 nenjuk 시르당 제베 양제 데미지 지야이나 용화이나 네 근데 지 세스마 펜제나 뭐래스
As a Buddhist, we believe in the life after death. And what that means is, well, when we die, our physical body, our physical form will go back to the elements. But what will continue forward is our consciousness or our energy or continuum. So how would that, so that aspect of it, aspect of our nature, the consciousness, our mind, would the transition, the rebirth, and so forth will be determined by how we lived our life, how virtuous our life is been. If all our life, if we have been creating non-virtuous actions, so that equally will have effect on our process of death as well as the rebirth. Therefore, when we think about generally the important value of compassion, and of course we have compassion to our near and dear ones and our friends, but at this level, our compassion is also not entirely free of bias. So if in our daily life, if we work towards, if we practice, at least at the basic level, where our compassion is less biased, is more inclusive, is more compassionate to the unfortunate, to the distant people, that might be a practical step to really strengthen our compassion, the nature of the Buddha nature within us.
Okay, thank you, Venerable. If you don't mind, we have more questions. This question actually is a very common question for lay people. So this question is coming from a lay woman. Her name is Alice. So if you look at the current pandemic, it has created a lot of uncertainty. People have lost their job. In terms of their livelihood is also affected. The question is, how can Buddhism help lay people in terms of how to deal with this economic uncertainty and dealing with the livelihood?
Tatanda niyam gachin ka mga namjeng kumen sek toda kaner chezo konergo mga zakadi kitanda lika shortita na panjur kitani kaner chejira tima ngoyon tanyom shimbare tatik haptiga cheki nangpawa zinna cheki tajimbo musika tidewin jimbo tapshi tang masona rohata masona chije lamtun tang kalukare yosum.
네, 다 단단히 뭐나 아니 소원한 제. 네, 다 단단히 그 지수요는 특정 제외도네. 다 단단히 그때 아니 강에 되지 체르가나 아니 지 가세오스. 아니 맞죠? 소소라 치고 삼을 치고 당 많이 봐. 잠보는 스틸라 다들 그 강에 체해야 돼요. 잠보는 스틸라 강에 체해야 돼. 잠보는 그 아니 지금 간에 아니 저 동네 제사가 가서 합쳐서는 말씀하듯이 차대요. 이제는 같은 때 네 챔버가 그때 네 거장 강에만 또 아니 대치 강에다가 저 세어가 답시 매 말이에요. 근데가 아니 단다 강에 대당 아니 세시마 가지고 네 지 타람보가 강에다가 상호당에 얘나 아니 단다요 강에 때 아니 거장 강에 대만 또 때라 세어매 답시 말이에요. 네 배샤나 다 아니 나도 단다같이 네임도 사동건도 만들어봤더니 맞아 값도 앞에 네임도 맞아 사동 넣고 요말 때 예? 아니 네임도 이런 생각이 용되기도 왔어. Then the Nana Kanate, Yon and Sea Yoga Tapsi Delata, Mother Chatung Jigo is. Then the Ganani, Soso Chipa Machine with Tony. What Nitanda energy, Soso Chipa Jimena, Neko Kanute, Nikane, Chemo de Mares. Sea the Tapsi Yoris.
Like what we were saying earlier, this really, of course, the challenges and the difficulties the people are facing are real. But what we as a community can help at least is through giving a hope, to put things in the context that of course this is real, the challenges are real, but at some point of time in the future we will overcome it. This will be behind us, and then to whoever that we are associated with in our community, to really encourage them, to empower them, and to because that is often what is lack is once people get discouraged, and what we can do is to remind them that these challenges are temporary, and within coming months and years, this will be something we will be looking back at. And particularly in this circumstance, we as a community of a Buddhist, we all have our own community of the lay people. So to be more engaging with them, to be to show more compassion to them, and to remind them this is temporary, and then there will be more to persevere through this time of challenge.
So in the coming day, Mazo coming the Seva de la Reva, you are this. Reva, you are in the Reva Tigan and in the Bestin China, and in the Reva and the West. And Reva Kese, Reva knows Mayina, and the Bestin China, and you were talking about us. Mr. Nanjing, Mazo, Chichi, they shall get the Nickels and the Deva Chitum Chichi go over us. None of the Tani, another child holder than the Dinama, because of shooting in Chatham to number from Deva. What did you, because of Kiwachima killing in Chani? Send the Chama in the and Chichima the kitchen with you be Delani, Winnie, and then other Chichi. Yes, the Indian Chichima, send the for the kitchen body, the Indian other Chico, which is in the things.
Yeah, when we look at ourselves as a practitioners in the Buddhist tradition, we have also focus, we have aspiration and aim, and not only this life, but our aspiration stretches beyond this life into next life. So therefore we practice, therefore we work hard, and therefore that gives us the inspiration and trust and blessing. Okay. So I think in times like this, also the communities around us, particularly those who are directly affected, we can be there to hear their stories, to encourage them, to remind them that this is something temporary, and in the months and years time. And it is true, we're not just fabricating a fairy tale, but this truly will be something that we'll be looking behind as we move in the coming months.
Seva the Nanjing, Chini, Michani, then you got Seva the Lamono Jova Nanjing, she make him money bashing in Nayan, Nazu Chita, Yangji, or the Chamba Tanji, Seatilla, and in other Kitchen was Sunday, Tenny, Mazu, because of two other kids there is. The Zoe Nayan, Mazu daily Hazuk, there was Chamba Yanji, Mazu, to Chimbukani, and she was the kitchen was shot.
Yeah, like we, as a Buddhist, we spend so much time and effort to really cultivate compassion and practice on a rigorous daily basis. And yes, so in times like this, we can be more out there, more active, and to more sharing these qualities with the communities and people close to you. And that's exactly how also the purpose of our practice is that.
Okay, Thank you, Venerable. So thank you for giving us hope that a reminder that all conditions are impermanent. This one will not last. And this one will pass. I think as the saying goes, tough times never last, but tough people will last. So thank you very much. Can I hand back to Ajahn Riddhi? I think our Ajahn Riddhi do have some questions or closing remarks.
Thank you very much for your Dhamma talk today and translation. And after I didn't talk to the Venerable, and he happy to accept my invitation. And I look at the website. And then ask him, I don't know the tradition of the Rinpoche, he said he's the number 7 now. And how they select how they select the number like that? Okay, this is a question, but it's not the topic question.
Okay.
Okay.
The HK dostan diktan da ji wojin na thega charjung ga ye samana Rinpoche tan the HK Rinpoche the yang shakkan dostan na ta Rinpoche na thega kam tham bara tikora yang ngokto je sa on da
제가 그다지 도제 낭때 라이나 당아조지 적기게 남들 남들 되니까 이 선도데 달로 급자가 뭐나 아테데 당아조지 가제 가마바 아니 전에 다든지 뭐지 양파세 하든지 제다지 된지 시야 아니 나리나 다단단디 전도 검정 담바스니 다도 로승야하로 그 되게 지금 가서 양쪽에 되니까 지금 좀 오지리 시야 다이네 소소가 지금 예매세 하고 메스 그러 다이네 간데 리 이거 지금 강네 아니 뭐지 지금 다 지금 아니에 계획이 된죠 물리는 뭐지 토송 다 나중에 제 계획 다 미치는 지금 제 손 때문에 장미가 지금 다 개체신 도대 되리시야 네 소소가 지금 대도 지금 장사죠 대도 지금 냠내서 나도 도수 장사죠 되니 내리가 뒤주실라야 미션발라 지금 세지 좀 하더라 나로는 지금 다가서 뭐네 장미가 지금 말리는 뭐지 해야지 다 지금 말리 토와든 데는 뭐지 책을 말했어 단 민담다요레스 이나 말리는 뭐지 해야지 뭐네 장미 단 제가가 담이 되니 친데리 지금 제지니 다 때문에 장미가 대지게 가서 냠내지 소소게 장 네 젠발에 대파 빼 너다 되니 좋아들라 나는 지금 되니 통고요 아이네 검정 담아서 돼 되니 지금
when we think about what is somewhat unique about Tibetan Buddhist tradition is the system of reincarnation, and that system of reincarnation has begun 900 years ago, and the first reincarnation was His Holiness the Karmapas. And through these systems, I think what it created is a platform or the vehicle for the Dharma and the teachings to continue and the communities to stay intact throughout the generation regardless. And in case of Rinpoche, he's humbly saying he don't know for sure, but he's the 7th reincarnation of the Tsengdok Rinpoche, and which goes back roughly 300 years. But to Rinpoche, the most important aspect is really to have, through this lineage, what provided or what cultivated in him is the opportunity to study, to practice. So that's what he treasured the most. As we all say, the human form is very precious, and then in a human form where you have connection or access to the teachings of Buddha is even more precious. So according to Rinpoche, that being able to be part of the teaching, to practice, and then to share it with the community and the wonderful people like yourself. So this is what he really treasured the most. So in that sense, when we think about ourselves, all of us are, as a Buddhist who believe in the continuation of life after birth, we are all in some form or kind of reincarnation ourselves in that sense. And according to Tibetan Buddhist tradition, there are ways in which the emanation of the reincarnation is not only something like, static, but it can have taken on many forms and many shapes as well.
Thank you. And everyone have any questions? You can ask him directly now. You have any question?
Actually, we have a question from
okay.
from Sarah. So we don't. But do we still have time, Ajahn?
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Sarah, you want to ask a question, or you want? Okay. The question from Sarah actually relates to our mind, because a lot of time we wanted to keep our mind to be in the same stable state, to be able to focus. So how do we keep our mind to be in this state so that we don't have the problem of a monkey mind? So what is the advice to a lay person who is trying to practice a more mindfulness and to have a stable state mind?
너도 그다 지금 녀자의 그 니타 처주나 지 처주가 나면은 지금 템보 메조고는 지 나면은 지 아양 유지조가 지금 아무스가니 지금 뭐나 지금 진충은 저조가 때문에 지 강사가 그 삼로 방향 유지조가 비kangan 뜻임부가 다시 답시 저거는 답랑강
나도 다 간서 레벨 담보 와지 매 참에 담보들라 나도 지 곰지 지에서 되게 신부 수차들 샤스 봐 그때 아니 가츠가 나도 지 곰지 요아이나 배샤나 아니 나도 곰지 지 때라는 배순 지야이나 가래나 나도 지트고리 아니 배샤이나 단다디 나도 그렇지 나 담배 치는 나 가르치면서 아니 제시 친구 파파 토메기 아니 제시 삼보고 뭐 조중이라도 해야지 그래서 다디는 놈의 찍대 가시고서나 아니 파파 토메기 제시 삼보 주비 갑들라 아니 코추 다 로시시나로라 야출로 터네니 터네니 갑지라 아니 파파 토메기 출로하는데 그나니 미 보겐군치기 아니 작동 첨부치 아니 다르시네니 다데오레스 아니 콩가 계좌들이거나 저 가르치고 있는 슈리가나 아니 내서다니 작동 대달시네 급소고요 급이와 급소고요 아니 안가마이 급소는 반대이 급소고요 다 데라시 콩산로 당되거나 민 덴디지가 작동 첨부치 아니 다르시네 급소에게 덴디게 보바지 당 존지지도 되도와 아니 나 가르치는 연구 말씀에 아니 양지야 답변 들어지는 양치 kasi tenge chine nga to tende kongia ita thama dela ani nga to tenge so so chu komba ita sente shidi ga ani ani nga to chi gombi de thori is
to senta
papa thome ke jin shamba ko matri
that's all yeah, so this is really everyday challenge. I think Rinpoche is saying we have to, in some moment or sometime, have to have generate determination, conviction, lack of generating conviction will sort of give leeway for this kind of situation or tendencies. So, and for that, Rinpoche is given an example of one of the great Indian master, Pakatumaran. Pakatumet, Arya Deva Mara. Arya Deva, yes, sorry. Arya Deva, the master Arya Deva was, the story is that Master Arya Deva was in a cave meditating and generating Chintago. He was practicing Maitreya Buddha, meditating and generating. And after 4 years, he came out of the cave, and what he encountered outside of his meditation cave was this elderly gentleman with a big iron rod, and he's polishing the big iron rod. And then the Arya Deva asked the elderly gentleman, "What are you doing?" And his response was, "Oh, I'm sharpening this to make it into a needle." And he said, "I have made needles before like this, and I'm going to make this one into a needle." So hearing that response, Arya Deva was in the middle of his meditation practice over the long period of time. It really gave him a sense of confidence and conviction. Well, look at this elderly gentleman who is so old, but his determination to rub this strong iron rods to make a small needle. If he has that, then of course I can strengthen my meditation and see the Maitreya or generate the Maitreya in my meditation. And then the story is that he, seeing this elderly's conviction, he went back into the cave, and that gave him an encouragement and really developed his meditation. So in that sense, a lot of the deviation of our mind, in some ways, it's because of if we make a decisive step, that could make a huge difference.
Thank you, Venerable. Ajahn, pass it back for you to the closing.
No question, no more question. Okay, thank you very much, Venerable, and thank you everyone for joining today. And for the next Saturday, the Ajahn Sona will come back again. Ajahn Sona from Canada too, from Bergen, they come back for the second time. And thank you for getting the time to be to the end. And I want to invite our president to pay respect to Rinpoche again. หลวงพ่อนิมนต์กันหลวงพ่อ
อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธภะคะวาพุทธังภะคะวันตังอะภิวาเทสวากขาโตภะคะวะตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมมัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนะมา
Sadhu Anumotani.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we going to upload to the Facebook and YouTube. Okay. Yeah, you can check again. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Kong, Alit, and Rob, and Sarah. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I thought that was good. Yeah, I thought it was a good question.